I need to press the button, I guess.
Green one?
Yeah. So, can you hear me better now? No difference? Okay, cool. Oh, that's much better. Awesome. Hello everyone. I am Meligy, and I run the NG Sydney user group, which is not in North Sydney at the moment. It's in near Central Information, and that's usually where people would know me. But a few other people would know me from being a senior consultant at Redify. Or this mic feels very, very weird, by the way. And from spamming around 5,000 developer every month on gurustop.net with some hand-picked links for JavaScript and Angular and stuff like that. I know Angular might also be an interesting word in here, but I've been involved a lot with it and have a few contributions in the version 1.0 of the Angular CLI, which I'll talk about in a bit. So there are quite a few things happening tonight. There's one talk that I wanted to see at DDD and I couldn't see because it was running at the same time as mine, so I want to see it with you. And there is a very great, super fun talk that I wouldn't stop watching for as many times as I can, so I'll try to be running quick because I'm between you and these two. But we're going to talk about JavaScript in general. That's the fastest part for this audience. A little bit about TypeScript, which is already in 2.4 since the time I wrote that other title, and a few other things. Who here does React? Okay, who here does Angular? Who here does Vue? Anything else? Okay, cool. So that is that. Let's go to the first part very quickly. That should be the fast part for you, because you're, SydJS. So, the quick question about what's the latest version of ECMAScript? Come on, let's make it interactive. We need to go quickly. So just say it, shout it out. 8, perfect. And 8 is 2017, and I don't need to explain because, again, SydJS. So with ECMAScript 8, we got get on property descriptors, and we got things and stuff, which most of the people used to say are in ECMAScript 7. But in ECMAScript 7, we only got like 2 features, right? The mass thingy and the array thingy, and that's it. And you don't know how many browsers support what, and you can find a few more proposals in this URL, and it keeps evolving. Every year there is a JavaScript, maybe one year with only 2 features, but maybe another year with very interesting features. Some of them are things that we took for granted for a very long time, like these 2, but they haven't really made it until very late. And some of them just didn't make it at all. Anybody remembers the object.observe API, which everybody thought was going to be the future of dirty checking and change tracking and all the new SPA frameworks, but it's canned. It's not anywhere now, right? So with that, again, SydJS, I don't need to tell you that in today's world you really need to write. Sorry, you really need to use a compiler or a transpiler when they used to call it in the olden days. However, not all transpilers or compilers are created equal. This is, what language is this? CoffeeScript. People here are old enough to remember. And when you look at how CoffeeScript looks to compared to JavaScript, it's just not the same. And as someone who really likes their curly brackets and stuff, this just makes me feel bad, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't like Python when I tried it in 2007, which I admit is a very bad reason to hate on language. But there is another class of compilers, and this one is things like Babel. So Babel is awesome. Babel is great. Babel is perfect. With Babel, you can create any syntax you want, right? That's kind of the original thing. And then it changed it into, you know what? You can't just take every single piece and put it together to make the language you want. You probably just want JavaScript or ECMAScript, and you we can put collections of these plugins and call them presets, and you just have the preset you want. Except there are two issues with that. First, who says that a feature will make it to a certain version? We already touched quickly on that. But also, with this, the version of the language that you're using, especially if you go beyond presets, it's not going to be the same that everyone else is using. The syntax, not everyone's going to understand the same thing. And the editor support is very interesting. When I tried to check the Babel, what editor plugins they have or anything like that, they said we don't have. It's just JavaScript. It's this dirty kind of word called it's just JavaScript, right? Where editors are supposed to do one of two things. Either support features before they make it enough to stage 4, in becoming final, or you just are going to rely on the editor giving you bad time with bad syntax highlighting, or someone use some smart way of having editor theme to give you proper. And Flow, that's Facebook's version of TypeScript, if you may. When I tried to use it in Visual Studio Code, they said, well, first thing you need to do, turn off JavaScript formatting and just turn off validating JavaScript, because we know this is not valid JavaScript, because guess what? It's not JavaScript, right? So the problem with things like that is that they only care about the compilation experience, remove the types, give errors on the compilation, give a nice compilation output and all this stuff. But there are quite a few pieces of the experience that are missing. On the other hand, there is another class of compilers very close to Babel, right? Which is this. This is JavaScript code, right? And if you have a good editor for JavaScript, you can get some hints telling you what type certain variable is, and that's all good. The only difference we have here from this code is just the type. So that's just like the Flow way of doing things. Except it's not an afterthought. It's built into the language. It's built in every single editor you're going to use. And that's thanks to a concept that's known a language server that was built into the language from day one in TypeScript, while in other languages it still doesn't exist for quite a few things. So how does this work? How is TypeScript different from the other options if you're going to pick a compiler anyway? First, let's talk about what's TypeScript. TypeScript, we have a compiler, we have a server, which has a certain protocol to talk to anyone who wants to talk about with this server, and we also have plugins, and this is fairly new. This is only TypeScript 2.3 or something, but it allows you to do the same thing that you do with Babel, where you add new syntax to the language. But the difference is, when you add new syntax to the language, what you have to worry about is the editor experience. And that's where the server comes to play. So whenever you're using Visual Studio Code or Atom or even WebStorm or any other editor you can think of that's using TypeScript, what's going to do is it's going to run a process, a node process in the background, which is the TypeScript server, and it's going to send it messages via a well-defined standard protocol whenever you type anything, whenever you hover on a variable, whenever anything like that, so that it can get the proper intelligence and proper type information and errors and everything in a consistent way. It doesn't matter what's your flavor of editor or plugin or whatever, it just works the same way. It's just the same language, so you should expect the same experience. But in addition to that, you can have NPM packages that have plugins that can talk to the server again, so that any editor can get the same experience. So for example, the Ender people, when they wanted to give you intelligence in HTML for all your TypeScript information, and they wanted to give you error checking and Yeah, it's not just JavaScript. So they have their own language and stuff, which people love to pick on, especially here, I guess. But because of that, they also want to give you all the best experience you have, just like you're writing in a C# or a well defined language where you expect proper errors. So at first, what they did, they actually forked the compiler. They forked the TypeScript version and they had their own thing. But after that, TypeScript was like, well, you know what? We can have plugins. And now they have plugins, and now we can have different features. So when this is WebStorm's way of saying, use the main TypeScript service, which uses the server, but also use different plugins that come with it. And these are just packages you put in your probably the same way I would expect something like Flow would work as well. It's just a package you put in your dev dependencies and voila. So when you look at things like this, how many people here know what's TypeScript like in general? That's good. How many here know about Flow? Any other typed language in JavaScript? I don't know if there's one. What?
Fable, Reason.
Yeah, okay. Please tweak me these names to yeah, so in TypeScript and also in Flow actually, there's this concept of having interfaces, and interfaces are a very good way of merging untyped data and typed data. So whenever you're getting information from the server, for example, this information will probably come as JSON, and you'll translate this JSON into just some object literals. That's how all internet applications tend to work these days. So if you want to have that give you some proper intelligence and stuff, you just cast it to an interface, and then it works automatically. The good thing is you don't need, unlike the normal typed language like C# and stuff, you don't have to say that this object implements this interface. When I'm calling this function, it just matches based on the definition of the object and the definition of the interface. And that's why in here, it knows that there is a missing name, a missing property, and just say, okay, this doesn't meet the shape that's expected in here. And this works just fine. Sorry. And of course, one thing that happens and one thing that people end up doing is they give you the ability to write the interface multiple times and define things that are globals as well, like house document and window and stuff, and define their types, and that's why it already knows the types for document, for body, for HTML. There are a lot of definition files that just are available for you, especially if you're working with the web, with the front end. Also, recently in TypeScript 2.3, you are now able to do things like call any JavaScript files, even if they don't have these definitions or anything like that, and you can also start having for the people who do Flow, the same thing like flow type. You can have TS type and have these JavaScript files checked. In the olden days, you used to have to rename your .js file to a .ts to get it working with TypeScript, and now you can just mix JavaScript and TypeScript files all together with no problem. And we have a TSLint, just like ESLint, but better because it can compare, it can give you errors based on types as well. Not just based on the JavaScript rules, and it works very well and it's very extensible. So there is actually most of the errors I get at work from a linter are not from TSLint rules. They're from rules that are defined in a TSLint extension or plugin called Codelizer, which is written specially for Angular. So that makes the experience very, very nice with that. And when TypeScript started, it meant to go eventually, to make you go from having non-typed code all the way to having typed code. This means that anything that you don't define what's its type, if you don't have an interface or anything like that, and if it cannot infer the type automatically, like how user here, it can know what the structure is, it will give it a type called any, and it will just go on. However, this can, if this would happen automatically, this will give you some errors. So what they did is they had some configuration variables to say, okay, don't automatically cast to any, only if I say explicitly as any. They have a few things like don't automatically allow any type to be null unless I say it can be null, things like that. So they had different flags for this, and in Flow again, they only have one flag, like either to like they're only strict by default, and TypeScript was like, well, you know what, let's just do it, and they have one flag now. You just say strict and it sets all the strict options, and we'll have a look at that very soon. You get all the things that you would expect from a proper language. You get access modifiers. By default, everything is public. The only reason I specified it in public in here is just so that, just like functional language that people will have F# and stuff, you can have your constructor arguments automatically set as member properties. So instead of having another property called first name and having this dot first name equal first name, I don't have to do it. Because I added access modifier here, it knows to do that for me. You can have get and set properties, and it's fairly well on par with the latest ECMAScript features. Although, of course, it's not as fast as somebody randomly writing their own plugin that does the same syntax, but it's still, you get async await. We have got it for a very long time. Template strings and tag template strings, everything you would expect. So that's one, it's just the development experience as you as a developer would expect it. I haven't had anybody teach me a lot of TypeScript when I started, and when I teach it to some Java guy on a one-on-one session, he was just getting it very quickly because it makes sense. It's just what you would expect language to work as. We have a few interesting things that just work around the awkward things that are in old JavaScript APIs. For example, a type doesn't have to be something like string or a name or certain shape of a class, but it can be a value. So you can say, if a function takes a color property, then this color property can only be one of these values. That's a fairly interesting thing, and that's how some people used to fake a string enum until TypeScript 2.4 had a string enum. That took forever, but it's there. They had numerical enums for a very long time. And of course you get generics because you got types, so why not? And of course you can have types for functions, like separate between functions based on what arguments they take and what's the return type and stuff, and all this. Just like we saw with the interface, it can infer them and understand them automatically. And you got, I hope I say this word right, you got tuples. So who knows what a tuple is? What's a tuple?
Unnamed collection of objects.
Yeah, so the classic case of I need to return more than one value and I'm too lazy and I think it's too much to return to write a class specially just for this particular case. So in TypeScript there is a very nice way of doing tuples, which is just using arrays. So now the type of X is a tuple that takes a string and a number, because this can work very nicely with an array. And the way this works is, let me switch to this. I forgot to to add a demo specially for that in the previous talk, and now it's of course no different. So here I open the new file, I said change language mode to TypeScript. That's the bit you didn't see. The bit you'll be able to see is, let's say, var, let's say, tuple, and this tuple is not a var actually, it's a type. And the type is, because it's a type I can do that, I think. And this is a string and a number. Now, if a function needs to take this, the function might be something like function get person. Everybody can see this? Probably not. Is that better? So regardless of what this function does and what it returns, takes a person, right? And this person can be a tuple. But that's not how I ever use this feature, because that's pointless. The way you do it, and React people usually love this sort of stuff, is I'll say name and age, for example, and that's of a type tuple. In reality, because if I'm going to create this, I would probably create a proper interface or whatever, so I wouldn't even be doing this, I'll be doing this. So the structuring works very well with tuples, as you see, and that's how you would be using it in reality. So that's cool, and this one was a lot more focused on what's really happening, what's new. So I assume you know TypeScript, or you will be able to pick it up very quickly. But there are quite a few things that are very nice, and a few people didn't seem to know about it. Now there is the way when I write TypeScript code is I go and create a new node module, and I'll show this in a quick thing. And I use TS node just to write TypeScript. So going in here, I can go TS node, and this is, oops, I need to nbx TS node. Hopefully that one will work. Yep. And then I can say I have variable x, and this is a number, and y I need probably to give it something, maybe. Yeah. So now, because it doesn't make sense to if it is a number and doesn't have a value, because otherwise it has to be a number or null. And I don't already need to show you that. Yeah, of course that will fail because you already know this. So this is just like just like Node, except with the ability to run TypeScript, and it allows you to debug TypeScript in your editors as well directly, just because because it already supports debugging with Node. So if you change Node to TS Node, then it just works with TypeScript, and that's all cool. I already talked to you about TSLint. Pretty much every editor that supports JavaScript probably supports TypeScript as well, whether it's Sublime, Atom, Visual Studio Code, of course, and all the JetBrains products. And speaking of that, the guy who wrote the Atom integration and who also wrote the most popular TypeScript cookbook is actually a React developer. I'll be showing you how React works with TypeScript in a second, but don't feel like if I'm writing React, it doesn't mean I'm not writing TypeScript. It's only for the Angular people and stuff like that. It's just not like this. And I've already talked about things like what language service exists, like the Angular plugin and stuff, and the way definitions work in like being able to add the definition for TypeScript. This is one thing that TypeScript kind of got wrong a few times. So they had their own tool to load all the definition files, the files that describe the JavaScript syntax, so that you can have intelligence for and errors and stuff. And they had a tool to like a package manager, like Power and this sort of stuff. So they had one, and they had two. They had TSD and typings. And then they finally thought, well, you know what? This sucks. Let's just use NPM, which makes total sense. So in here, they just said, okay, for every package that you have, just have a repository of add types, like an organization, add all the popular types. But if the package exists and it has a types property in package.json, then it doesn't even need to have a separate file. You just include the same files in your package itself, and hopefully, if you have time, we'll see that. But I had one problem, which is I cannot browse. I cannot browse to all add type slash in npm. So that will be very hard for me if I want to know, does Lodash have typings or not. So they created this nice tool, Microsoft GitHub IO/type search, and then I can check does Lodash have, and then I realized that yes, Lodash and the version more friendly for importing ES6 imports Lodash ES all have types. So now I know, okay, that's cool, that works well for me. Oops. So that's what TypeScript is about in my mind. It's the whole developer experience. You get the types, you get the editor, you get the linting, it's the whole thing. It's not just, go and get this piece and accept that the editor experience sucks. And no, it's not like that. It's just everything works well. Now, very quickly, hopefully, we go through different stuff. Now, if you're working with React, who here said they were working with React? Who were brave enough to say they're working with React? No. Yeah. So Microsoft has their own React starter thing, but that's not how I would go and write. That's not how I would go and write React applications in TypeScript. The React people are awesome, and one of the awesome things they created was this Create React app. And the nice thing about Create React app is that most of the stuff is not in Create React app itself. It's in this thing called scripts, React scripts. So what this means is you can just install Create React app and just have different scripts to load different sites. So that's exactly what Microsoft did. Was it Microsoft? I think it was Microsoft or someone. Yeah. So this one, I know a few people who are already using it, and you say use the version of TypeScript of this Create React app, and when you do that, let's go open a new one. I know I have something. My React app. You get all that you would expect. You get the nice small packages.json file with not much to expect. These are just a few typings for you to get the intelligence for the things you use the most, like your just testing and React itself and stuff. And nothing here is really special if you ever worked with Create React app. The application, they have a thing called TSX, so that's just like TSX. And in the past, it had issues where it only understood React itself, like for the web. Now it works very well with things like React Native and all this stuff. And of course, you would get, the things you would expect, like what this logo has. It's not known because it's just a require from an SVG, which you wouldn't expect even TypeScript to understand that. But you also get all the things you would expect from a proper language and understanding all the stuff, and it understands that app is class and all the sort of stuff you would expect in there. And I can go and F12 on component and see the definitions. It has the definitions for all the functions and all the sorts of stuff you'd expect. So if you're doing React, you're good. And again, as I said, the guy who implemented the TypeScript implementation he's Australian, by the way. So TypeScript Git book Basarat. I think you probably have had him here at least one time. So he wrote this TypeScript deep dive, and it's a very good book for people who are learning it. And he does React, so yeah, you're good with React. Now, how about Angular? For Angular, of course, it's so easy. Just install Angular CLI. It comes with TypeScript. If you have issues, talk to me personally. And yeah, just npm install Angular/CLI, ng new something awesome. And the experience is just as great as you'd expect, because it doesn't just give you enough tools to do to create an application, but also gives you the linting tool, and with the CodeLizer you get extra linting and you get a lot of stuff. So I'll skip through this one because there are not that many Angular developers here. And for TypeScript, if you're doing Express, the official starter is good. Although it's a little bit bagged, it has some MongoDB stuff directly in it. So that's cool. There are also a few projects that work with TypeScript and Express. You can just have an Express and add the stuff. But if you're creating your own, that's the interesting piece. It's not any different from what you would do with something like Babel. Actually, it might be easier because with Babel you might have to fiddle with presets and stuff. So I created a project. I don't need to explain npm init because SydJS. You add TypeScript. If you want to add a few things, I would always add tslint if this is a real project, not something I'm playing with. I would add tsnode if something I'm playing with, and most likely I'll add like all of it just in case. And if you're doing Node, you probably want the Node timings, which are like optional. And this creates the tsconfig file that we'll look at in a second. How am I with time? I'm feeling like I'm over time. I'm behind, right? So going here, oops, I cannot minimize. Oh yeah, smaller. Oh. How about this? Okay, I'll go very quickly and change the font size the hard way, or maybe if I do this. Okay, then never mind. That's taking time, so I'll skip it. So here I have this project. There's nothing special. I just created it and I added the things I told you, and then when I did init, it gave me this configuration file, which is so full of comments that are supposed to help you know all the different features, like how, for example, with JSX you can have React Native stuff and all this happening very nicely. But, sorry, a few things that we might be interested in is like how the module system works. If you're using Webpack or Node, you'll be using CommonJS, so most of the time you'll be using CommonJS anyway. If you're doing Node only, you might want to target ES 2015 because Node is now not as bad as it used to be. And this strict property is what I was telling you about, which tells you, okay, don't automatically convert to any or to null, and don't assume always and all. Don't assume this and all this sort of stuff just in one flag, and this is fairly new. Now, if I want to do this, most likely I would go ahead and strict the file that I'm working with into just source. I'll go say only include source, and if I want to allow JavaScript, it's as simple as saying allow JS set to true. But because it's just JavaScript, so I'm not converting JavaScript to TypeScript, I will not say check JS to true. I'll leave this as false. Now, the one thing I might be interested in, I might go and set my out directory to dist, so that when I combine something from source, it goes to dist. This is more likely if I'm doing something for the web or anything like that. If I'm not going to use it with TS Node, because if I'm going to use it with TS Node, that's all cool. One more thing that I might want to have in here is, I'll say, declaration true, and this generates, when it generates the JavaScript files, it also generates the objects that explore how they're like. So this means that I should come here and create a new folder called source. I'll create a new file, index.ts. For the sake of this, I'll not do anything crazy. I'll just say export var something, I don't know, and this one's going to, or let's call it greater, and it's going to have a greet, and it's going to be that. So I don't care really what's going to happen. Maybe console.log name, and I'll go say this name has to be a string. So that's all good. If I go ahead and compile it, it should work, but because I want to compile it, what I'm going to do is first remove this. We don't write tests. I do, but not now. And so I'm going to say, okay, now for start, let's say start will always go from dist / index dot ts. JS, and this might be just a node or whatever. But what I'm really interested in is what should I do when I'm building this? So I can go and say for build, just tsc, and it will understand, from the config, it will understand all it needs to do and stuff like this. I can add things like on pre-build to do tslint and stuff like this. This is not really what I want to talk about, but what I want to say is in pre-publish, what I'm going to do in pre-publish, I'm going to say tsc as well, or npm run build. Which means if I want to publish this as an npm package, I'll just take this, and then I can say, that's why I wrote main by accident. Do I have main? Oh yeah, I do. So my main is going to be in dist, and I'll have a types, I think, if I remember it right, and this is going to be the same thing, except instead of JS, it's going to be .d.ts. That's all good. So if I go here, oops, and say terminal, terminal focus, new terminal, then I say npm run build. Have you guys talked about nbx here yet, or not really? Okay, cool. Because I'm getting an error now, so maybe I'll just ignore and... Oh, allow JS cannot be specified with declaration, because if you're allowing JS, how come are you generating declaration, like a size of this or that? Because there will be a JS file then. So I'll say, okay, let's take this for now. Do that, do. And then in the dest folder, I see my index file, which doesn't look much different. And I see my TS file, which when anybody imports from this file, it will understand what it is like. So that's fairly simple compared to any work that you would be doing in any compiled language with Node. There's nothing special. There's no magic. It's fairly simple. I don't even go with GitHub repositories to clone it. It's just you go directly and do it. So yeah, npx, very quickly. Npx, anybody knows how you can say in yarn, you can say yarn flow or yarn any bin instead of, yarn run any bin, not just, like you don't have to have it in your scripts file. So with npm 5.2, I think, 5.2, they released this tool. They merged this tool called npx, and this allows you to run any CLI directly, just even without installing it. So you can say npx create React app without even globally installing create React app, and it will install it and run the command and stuff. Have a look at it because it's awesome. But it's not our topic, and I think I've taken much more time than I promised. I'm sorry for that. If you want to tell me how awful anything I work with is, or tell me how awesome anything I don't work with is, just talk to me on Twitter. I like to chat on Twitter. Or if you have any questions, if you need any help, just email me. Join the mailing list in here. I usually share a lot of interesting things regarding Node and ASP.NET and other stuff than TypeScript and Angular. And join the non-dark side at NG Sydney. Next month, for those who care, we're going to have Tracy Lee, who is a popular figure in every single conference related to every single JavaScript framework out there. So you might be interested in watching for that, especially if you're not going to NGC Sydney. And yeah, thanks.
We don't have any time for questions, but we've got Meligy.